Hi, I wanted to run through the week 4 wrap-up for us. Okay, first of all, Dr. Ange and I have received the midterm checkpoint feedback from you folks. I wanted to thank you for taking time and providing that feedback. It was considered, thoughtful, and professional, and that kind of quality feedback really helps us improve our class from semester to semester. So again, thank you. Now, the second item, discussion for insurance case study solutions. As I recall, Dr. Ange posted the week 5 announcement, and it had a kind of a short summary of the solution for the case study. So if you haven't taken a look at that, do so. Now, I wanted to just add quickly that, where are we at here on my notes? Oh, that really I thought you did a really good job on that discussion as a whole. You did a good job understanding and summarizing the root problems, suggesting a course of action, and when you played that role as manager, you really did quite well. So overall, really good job. It's also nice to, I think, with the discussion and how this has all worked itself, this assignment and this case study works itself out, is that so we see the case study, we get to think about possible solutions, then we get to see that real solution, what really happened. And it really isn't. It really becomes interesting how that was made to how that process was made so much more efficient, worked so much better, and then once the consultant left, it all went back to where it was. What a shame. But it's interesting for us to see. All those pieces, I think, the case study and the solution. So thanks, Dr. Ange, for posting that. Now, also here we have a course blog. This last week, it was the extended readings course blog. The case studies, remember you did not have to post to those. Just to make you didn't have to post a reply, just the original post. Okay. We had the guest speaker last week, so make sure that you, if you haven't already, do a blog reflection, okay? Write a reflection on that guest speaker, and that was Mr. Larson. Yes, Mr. Larson from Kroger. So we want to really thank Mr. Larson for spending all the time answering all those questions. Great job, and it was really interesting. Now, just a few observations, and what I'm doing, I'm going back just a little bit this last week and maybe a little bit before, really thinking about assignment 1. And some of the things that I and Dr. Ange and we tend to see. Now, initially, I want to talk about the performance analysis. Okay, the gap, desired, and actual states. Okay, so we have the performance gap, desired, and actual states. What was advisable, and what we've seen through the readings and the guest speakers. Generally, is that with the desired and actual states, we want to try to measure these, make these measurable in some way, whether it be percentages, whether it be dollars of sales, whatever the case is, measurable. Now, when we make them measurable, we can actually see and determine whether an intervention has been successful. If we simply say we want to increase sales, what does that mean? It really means nothing, right? You're going to spend $10,000 to increase sales. That doesn't mean anything. But if you show an actual state of 80%, a desired state of 85%, want to increase sales by 5%. And you know what each percentage of sales is worth, well, obviously then you can see whether the training is worth the money. Hopefully that was a reasonable example on that. So again, you want to try to quantify those states if possible, so they can be measurable. Objectives can be measurable. They should be measurable. Objectives should be measurable in some way. Okay, the next thing, bias. So I had a professor years ago in my qualitative methodology course qualitative research methodology that always talked about having a dog in the fight. So I know some of you are working on projects, and this is absolutely fine. This is just a heads up. Who are working in the business, and your analysis is about that business. So what tends to happen is that you have a bias going into your particular analysis, and that's something you want to try to stay away from. So it's if possible, and sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But try to step out of the box there a little bit and take a look at the big picture. Try not to have that dog in the fight. Okay. Also, I think the final thing is that within those performance analysis, what we saw a lot, or not a lot, but on several, was sort of a micro perspective, if you will, and perhaps departmentally, a departmental perspective. So it was a smaller picture, and when you're doing a performance analysis on just a department or something, there are other factors, external factors, other internal factors that may come into play. All of those factors should be considered, because if you don't do a thorough analysis initially and you throw a bunch of money into training and that training doesn't work, maybe your picture was a little bit too narrow, your focus is a little bit too narrow, and you simply missed some really important factors that you should have considered. So think big, think system-wide, just expand, step out of that box and expand that picture, I guess I would say. Those are probably the main things out of that first assignment that kind of stood out, and I think are important pieces, especially moving forward. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, what's coming up? Okay, in week 5 we have the 4th guest speaker, and those are a couple of folks from Amazon. Craig Wohl and Angela Haskett. Now, make sure you get you're supposed to blog. You need a blog on 3 or 4 speakers, so make sure you do that. Get those in there. This is our 4th speaker, so you should have blogged on 3 or 4 of those. In the extended readings, we want to focus on practitioner tools and how-tos. Remember, you don't have to reply to any posts. You need to make the original post. You don't have to reply to any to help save a little bit of time. And then finally, in assignment 2, now you're taking that next step forward from from assignment 1, the performance analysis. Design and develop HPT solutions and evaluation plans. And was there anything I wanted to really say about that? You'll create a detailed plan and begin development of your proposed solutions to this performance problem. So you're probably halfway through. You have a week left to go. It's due this coming Sunday, midnight Eastern. Keep in mind 75 points. Make sure that you use the tables from the text, 8283 and 84. Refer back to those. It's just it's just a great idea to do that. Take a look at those and see how they fit into your scheme of things, if you will. And then also I'd like to suggest make sure that you use the assignment instructions and rubrics as a guide to follow. If you just step down through those, that rubric, you won't miss a thing on it. I was just going to pull this up here, and these are the assignment 2 design and development instructions. Highlighted those main things. Okay, you've read them. Now, I think this is something to think about too. For each intervention you selected, describe how that intervention would be used in your particular scenario. Okay, well and fine. But now, I think this part's important. Your description should be sufficient to allow someone else to create the intervention. Okay, so you build this intervention. Now, what this means and what I think is important and what I suggest to all my students with these kinds of projects is hand it off to somebody else. Maybe yourself. We talk about bias. Step back a little bit. Reread it. Could anyone pick this paper up, pick this analysis up, and basically be able to create that intervention? So if they can, you've done well. That's your goal in the end as a consultant would be, or an HPT, probably consultant in many cases, or employed as that in the company. You'd want to be able to hand that off. And so think about that And I think too oftentimes we don't. So just keep that in mind, just a thought. What else here? No more than 10 pages double spaced. Okay, so that's the deal. And we go back here. I think that, the other thing I wanted to show you, make sure this is that rubric, make sure you follow it as much as possible. And I think that's it. So I think that's it. If you have any questions, make sure you give Dr. Ange or I a holler. And thank you very much.